Late at night, while most of the world slept, the skies over Tel Aviv and Haifa erupted. Wave after wave of ballistic missiles, drones, and precision-guided munitions rained down on two of Israel's most important cities. And for the first time in this conflict, three separate forces launched simultaneously: Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Hezbollah from southern Lebanon, and Yemen's Ansar, the group the world calls the Houthis, coordinated a joint strike operation that Israeli media itself described as the largest combined assault in the past 3 weeks. But what most people missed in the chaos of the explosions and the sirens was a quiet, far more dangerous development unfolding hundreds of miles to the east, deep beneath the surface of the Strait of Hormuz. Over 20 Iranian Ghadir-class midget submarines had silently taken position along the seabed of the world's most critical oil choke point, and the implications of that single maneuver may reshape the balance of power in the Middle East for years to come. This is a story that the mainstream headlines are barely touching, so let's break it down from the very beginning. It started with a warning. The spokesperson of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, issued a statement that was as blunt as it was chilling. He said, and I'm paraphrasing from official translations here, "You know nothing about the scale of our strategic capabilities. The sites you targeted and believed were significant are, to us, insignificant. Our real military production and strategic depth exists in locations you have no knowledge of." Now, that kind of rhetoric is common in wartime. Nations exaggerate, commanders bluff. But here's the thing. In this case, the evidence on the ground actually supports the claim. Because despite weeks of sustained Israeli and American strikes on Iranian soil, Iran's missile output has not slowed. If anything, the tempo of their launches has increased. And that tells you something critical. Either the coalition is missing its targets, or Iran's real infrastructure is somewhere they haven't found yet. Either way, it's a problem. Now let's talk about what actually happened on the ground and in the sky during this latest wave. The IRGC officially designated this as Wave 91 of what they call Operation True Promise. According to their statement, heavy ballistic missile salvos were directed at the greater Tel Aviv metropolitan area and Haifa. The fallout from these strikes forced nearly 5 million Israeli citizens underground into bomb shelters. 5 million. That's more than half the population of New York City, huddling beneath concrete, waiting for the explosions to stop. Emergency responders across central and northern Israel reported being overwhelmed and disoriented by the sheer volume of simultaneous detonations. And this wasn't just Iran acting alone. Yemen's Ansar confirmed through their military spokesman, Yahya Sari, that ballistic missiles were launched from Yemeni territory, targeting strategic sites near Tel Aviv, specifically in the Jaffa district, in full coordination with both Iran and Hezbollah. This is the first confirmed trilateral strike operation between these three entities, and it marks a significant escalation in the so-called Axis of Resistance's operational capability. The targets were not random. Reports indicate that strikes hit sensitive Israeli airbases, including Tel Naf, Palmachim, and areas surrounding Ben Gurion International Airport. In addition, military staging areas in Eilat, the Negev Desert, and Beersheba were reportedly struck with both missiles and drone swarms. But it didn't stop at Israeli territory. American military installations in the region were also targeted. Kuwait's Al Ahmed Al Jaber and Ali Al Salem bases, Saudi Arabia's Al Kharj Air Base, and, perhaps most critically, the early warning radar system at Al Dhafra base in the United Arab Emirates was reportedly destroyed. That radar system was a linchpin of the region's air and missile defense architecture. Without it, the ability to detect and intercept incoming threats from Iran is significantly degraded. And if you've been following this channel, you'll remember we covered how Iranian missiles previously struck the Prince Sultan Air Base and split a Patriot PAC-3 battery in two. The satellite imagery confirmed it. This is not speculation, this is pattern recognition. And now let's go beneath the surface, literally. Because while the world was fixated on missile trails and explosion footage, something far more consequential was happening underwater in the Strait of Hormuz. According to defense analysts and corroborated by Iranian state media, more than 20 Ghadir-class midget submarines have been deployed along the seabed of the strait. These aren't your conventional nuclear-powered submarines that carry intercontinental ballistic missiles. The Ghadir-class is something entirely different, and in many ways far more dangerous in this specific theater. They are small, roughly 29 meters long. They are extremely quiet, and they are purpose-built for shallow, confined waterways, exactly the kind of environment the Strait of Hormuz provides. Their compact size and low acoustic signature make them extraordinarily difficult to detect using conventional anti-submarine warfare methods. Western sonar systems, largely designed to track larger submarines in deep open ocean, struggle in the cluttered, shallow acoustics of the Persian Gulf. And here's the nightmare scenario that Pentagon planners are quietly wargaming. In a worst-case engagement, these submarines could target aircraft carriers, destroyers, or oil tankers with torpedoes or naval mines, execute the strike, and disappear into the seabed terrain without leaving a traceable signature. It's the definition of asymmetric warfare. A $30 million submarine threatening a $13 billion aircraft carrier. And Iran doesn't have one or two of these. They have a fleet deployed, operational, right now. This is precisely why Donald Trump made a statement that caught many off guard. He essentially told European nations, "You go deal with Hormuz yourselves. Go get your own oil. We're not staying there unless we get a victory over Iran first." Read between the lines, and the message is clear. The United States recognizes that Iran's grip on the Strait of Hormuz is, at this moment, functionally unbreakable. Roughly 20% of the world's oil passes through that narrow waterway every single day. If Iran decides to close it, nor even credibly threaten to close it, global energy markets collapse overnight. And with the Ghadir fleet sitting silently on the seabed, that threat has never been more real. But Iran is paying a price too, and this is where the story takes a darker turn. American and Israeli strikes have not just been hitting military targets in Iran, they've been systematically targeting civilian health infrastructure. The Pasteur Institute of Iran, the oldest and most prestigious public health and research center in the entire Middle East, founded in 1920 under a cooperation agreement with the Pasteur Institute of Paris, was struck and severely damaged. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson Esmail Baghaei released 4 photographs showing the destruction and called it, quote, "heartbreaking, utterly cruel, despicable, and completely shameful." This was not a weapons facility. This was not a nuclear enrichment site. This was a medical research institution, one that had been conducting research on cancer treatment drugs just days before it was hit. Bridges carrying civilian traffic like the B1 bridge in Khorramabad have been destroyed. Hospitals have been damaged. The pattern is unmistakable. Degrade the country's ability to treat its own wounded before the next wave of strikes arrives. If that's not a war crime by any internationally recognized legal standard, then the term has lost all meaning. And yet, and this is perhaps the most infuriating part of this entire equation, the Arab League, rather than condemning the destruction of civilian infrastructure, has turned its fire on Iran. Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Aboul-Gheit publicly stated that Iran's missile operations constitute a violation of United Nations Security Council Resolution 2817 and called for the Security Council to take action against Iran. Not against the forces destroying hospitals, not against the coalition bombing research institutes, against Iran. The Gulf states, whose own long-term security is existentially threatened by the expansion of Israeli military operations, are actively helping build the legal and diplomatic groundwork for further escalation against the one country in the region that is fighting back. The irony would be laughable if the consequences weren't so catastrophic. Meanwhile, Trump has been repeating a line that he clearly believes will resonate with American voters ahead of the November midterms. "We will blow Iran back to the Stone Age." Iran's response was surgically precise, not with missiles this time, but with words. Their official statement read, "When you were searching for fire in caves, we were writing human rights on the Cyrus cylinder. We survived Alexander. We survived the Mongols. Iran is not just a country, it is a civilization. You are 250 years old, we are 6,000. IRGC General Sayed Majid Musavi added, "You are challenging a 6,000-year-old civilization. Your own existence is barely 2.5 centuries, and you will send us to the Stone Age?" Chinese defense analyst Andrew Leung, in an interview with Press TV, offered perhaps the most clear-eyed assessment. Trump's repeated claims of victory are not signs of strength, they are signs of anxiety. His approval ratings are declining. Prices are rising. Even within his own Republican base, dissenting voices are emerging. He needs a manufactured victory before November, and Iran is the stage he's chosen to perform on. So where does this leave us? The war is not over. It is escalating, on every front, above the surface and below it. Iran's missile volleys continue. The Ghadir submarines hold their positions in the Strait of Hormuz. Hezbollah and the Houthis have proven they can coordinate trilateral operations across thousands of miles. And the civilian cost in Iran, in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Yemen continues to mount with each passing hour. The question is no longer who has more firepower. The question is how far each side is willing to go, and what will be left when they finally stop. That's the reality on the ground right now. No propaganda, no spin, just the facts, the context, and the questions that the mainstream media won't ask. If this kind of analysis matters to you, if you believe the world deserves reporting that doesn't pick a side but picks apart the truth, then subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because in a world drowning in noise, clarity is the most powerful weapon we have. I'll see you in the next one.